Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I thought I'd talk about the books that I read during May. I do have some exclusions just because I've been vlogging a couple of times basically during both of the bank holidays. So those books for the first vlog that I did, which was my hair transformation, loving it, was Miss Marvel Volume 6 Civil War, Volume 8 Mecca, and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. So we're going to go straight into a book that I didn't manage to get finished, but I think I had about 100 pages or so left when I was vlogging during the hair adventure one, and that is A Dagger of Lightning by Meredith R. Lyons, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. When Imogen is kidnapped by an alien in disguise, there's nothing she can do to stop him. He is what's called a seed, which is a being with powerful abilities, and he's basically grown up, getting everything that he wants. The prince is convinced Imogen will fall in love with him and that her new powers, once she's turned a seed, will help his country win a centuries-old feud. I was on the book tour for this book and it was hosted by Black Tide. A big thank you to them for sending me out a digital copy and popping me on the book tour. I really liked our protagonist. I thought she had this fiery, fierce personality and she was very solid on what she believed in and wouldn't be swayed on that if that was something integral to her core, especially when it was considering a lot of things that you would probably get societal pressures for. She was very resilient in her steadfastness and what she wanted for her life. Al is the prince in question that I was referring to during the blurb of this book, and is very much like Akator's Tamlin but on steroids. He was such an icky character to read from, so well written because I could feel myself like visibly pulling away. Everything he said, something so entitled and just grim, and was actively ruining Imogen's life. Wells is a character I very quickly fell in love with. I knew I'd love him from the start, and I really enjoyed the chemistry that grew slowly and surely between him and Imogen. The political play was corrupt and spiteful. It really felt incredibly authentic. It's a slow start, but I'm really glad that I read it. I enjoyed the story. I felt connected to our main character and cared about her path on this new planet. Next up, a book that I have strong feelings for, and now I'm confused because a couple of people at work have read it and said they've really enjoyed it and they've like pushed through and really enjoyed like the story at the heart of it, and I'm like, I don't know. So this is My Dress Up Darling, which I feel like is everywhere at the moment. This is volume 1. I gave it a 1 star. And at first I was kind of riding on a 2 star, and then I just felt really uncomfortable. So we basically have a popular girl who loves cosplay and a quiet boy who creates clothes for traditional dolls, and they team up. This had some really funny scenes and I really loved that cosplay was at the heart of it. The MMC is adorable, giving the shy, awkward, around people type of vibe, and I really enjoyed learning about his family business and the tradition of henna doll making, which I didn't really know a lot about. I come out like completely educated about it, but I knew more than when I started. So I really liked that aspect of the story. The FMC is an absolute ray of sunshine, but I feel like she's a little bit too manic pixie dream girl and too trusting in really odd situations. I think it just gives me a really uncomfortable feeling because it is so very lewd, but the characters are all very underage and they're like high schoolers, and it was icky and strange to have them be that age in those scenarios. It was just too much. It really put me off continuing. As I say, a lot of people have really enjoyed the series, like the story in general, and I'm guessing they get older, but I swear they were like 15. I might be misremembering, but I think they were like 15 in this volume, and it was just like uncomfortable. Like the franchise that our main character Marin is obsessed with is a video game thing, and it's like an erotica visual novel game, and it's just, she's cosplaying a character from that, and it just is really uncomfortable. So yeah, I don't know necessarily if I'll be continuing on. When I wrote that review, I was kind of angry because I was like, why have they like hypersexualized this child? Like already in the cosplay community, young girls are already like super hypersexualized. Like, just let them be and enjoy cosplay. Why do they have to make it so like weird and lewd? But yeah, I don't know, it made me feel very uncomfortable. Anyway, moving on. Ms. Marvel Volume 9, Teenage Wastelands. I gave this one a complete opposite end of the spectrum of the last book. I gave this one 5 stars. This volume is kind of more about the village that makes up the concept and morals of what a superhero is. It's not really showcasing a lot of Ms. Marvel herself, like Kamala Khan, but it really was well done, and I loved the found family element of it, the themes of unrequited love and reconciliation and healing. It was a all-around beautiful addition to the series. Swiftly moving on, I did what I usually call blended reading. I've now learned has an actual term called immersive reading. Who knew? So I listened to and physically read the House of Mirrors by Erin Kelly, and this one I ended up giving a 3 out of 5 stars. One of them has killed before, one of them will kill again. In the sweltering summer of 1997, we've got straight-laced, straight-A student Karen, who meets Bieber, a bohemian and impossibly glamorous aspiring actress. A few months later, 2 people were dead and another has been sent to prison. Having stood by Rex as he served his sentence, Karen is now married to him with a daughter called Alice, who runs a vintage clothing company in London. They're a normal family, as long as they don't talk about their past, never mention the name Bieber, and ignore Alice's flashes of dark, dangerous fury. So throughout reading this one, I found myself really interested in the premise and kind of intrigued, wanting to know the background of the entanglement of the kind of like original characters, as you will, like Karen, Rex and Bieber, and how that impacted Alice's life now and where the adults were in their timeline now. But equally, I never really fully found myself sinking into the story or developing any kind of intimate connections with our perspectives. We do have a couple of varying POVs. I don't want to spoil them too much, but our main ones and the ones that carry like heavy weight for the majority of the story is Alice, which is the daughter, and Karen, which is the mum. So yeah, you see a lot of the story through their eyes, and particularly in one of their POVs, you realise, oh, actually, how much can I trust you? How much are you reliable? And I really did enjoy that. I just didn't find a strong connection with them. I did really enjoy the wealthy, high-run lifestyle of the Capels and the contrast of a more humble way of living with Liz, which was another character who was introduced slightly later in the story and through kind of like a spanner in the works. I honestly wasn't expecting the plot twist that we got, so that definitely sucked me in a little bit more. It was a really interesting spin, and yeah, it just created a different dynamic and more interest in the story as a whole. I thought the mystery overall was intriguing. The fraught family relationships were tangled and complex and completely messy, and the plot developed really nicely too, but I just kept finding myself not being as blown away as I'd hoped to be, unfortunately. Following that, I read Transhistory, the graphic novel, graphic journey by Alex L. Combs and Andrew Eakhart, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. This one I was on a book tour for with Hear Our Voices, so I received a digital ARC and participation on the book tour. This was super informative for me. I really enjoyed learning about gender crossing early civilizations such as ancient Egypt, a period of time that's always captured my interest specifically, and also how people navigated their gender or their sexual identity while still practicing roles within their religious beliefs, which I feel like is sometimes felt as though it contradicts the queer existence. So it was very validating and eye-opening to see the two can merge. I loved the last chapter in particular because it gave first-hand experiences and it spanned outside of like a Western mindset and their ideas of gender as well. So it was a great way to broaden my perspective of some of the more indigenous cultures included in the book, and individual stories from different backgrounds, which I thought was really cool to learn about. The next 2 books I spoke about in a vlog that's yet to be edited and uploaded, but this is focusing on my TBR. It's like a TBR tumble, And these two books are The Serial Killer Next Door by Emma Kenny, which is a non-fiction about some heinous serial killers and their crimes, basically. And also volume 3 of the Amulet series by Kizzy Kabushi. This is The Cloud Searchers. I've spoken a little bit already about volumes 1 and 2 in last month's video, but as I say, given this book in particular its own review in the vlog that I've yet to edit and upload. So finishing off this video, I closed up the month with volumes 1 and volume 2 of Rat Queens. So volume 1 was a reread for me, and I didn't realise I'd originally read it back in 2015, and I rated it 2 stars. And honestly, I feel like this reread, like 10 years later, really shows that context is key. I remember really struggling when I originally read it with how, like, to keep up with the fast-paced plot and not really understanding a lot of the inside jokes, and I wasn't able to build up a strong connection with the characters or really understand much of what was going on. I also apparently really had a difficult time with the vulgar language, which now was neither here nor there. But yeah, I loved Rat Queens this time round. I have since immersed myself more in the world of D&D and just tabletop role-playing games in general, so I feel like I could more connect to our characters, understand their more witty game-based humour. The references and the storytelling, the fast plot in general just made sense for that type of story, because you're going on an adventure. It's gonna be like that. Following up with volume 2, I also gave that a 4 out of 5 stars, and yeah, it was just a really good sequel to the first Rat Queens. I feel like it's really nice to see a cohesive storyline being strung out nicely, and to see that yes, there are going to be consequences in subsequent volumes to what has transpired in these first 2 volumes. I've definitely grown ever more intrigued by Dee, who is our human sort of belief doubting cleric. She's struggling with the powers, her divine powers that she's clearly got and she's able to utilize in her healing, but doubts her religion and the place that she needs to take as like a figurehead. There's a lot going on with her. There's a lot going on with all the characters, to be honest, but I feel like her particular story, especially with the ending of volume 2, has really piqued my interest furthermore. So yeah, this was action-packed, funny, moving, and again, the plot developed fabulously. I did end up finishing 2 more books during this time. So I finished another comic, which was Bitch Planet Volume 1, Extraordinary Machine. And this one is set in a future just a few years down the road in the wrong direction. A woman's failure to comply with her patriarchal overlords will result in exile to the meanest planet in the galaxy. When the newest crop of fresh femmes arrive, can they work together to stay alive, or will hidden agendas, crooked guards, and the deadliest sport on or off Earth take them to their maker? I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars, and it felt like a twisted marriage between 1984, Only Ever Yours, and The Handmaid's Tale, which with the latter is what I imagine it to be like, because I've yet to actually read or watch The Handmaid's Tale. The essence of Bitch Planet, as the blurb briefly explained, is that if you're not compliant, whether you've committed a crime or you've simply not pleased your husband enough, you get sent to a hellhole prison system, which is Bitch Planet. And once there, you're not coming back to Earth. It's vibrant, it's daring, snarky, and very thought-provoking. It's got lots of bold and witty adverts selling crap to brainwash you into fitting into the societal norms, but in a fourth wall, like humorous, breaking the meta kind of way. It's exaggerated and intense, with themes of race, class, gender and size, to name a few. And although chaotic in its delivery, it's also really clever, entertaining and innovative. I would definitely be interested in reading the next volume. I also finished up an audiobook that I had on the go called The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh, and this one follows Dare Chase. I had been listening to this one during the second vlog, which is yet to come out, but Dare Chase is basically a supernatural skeptic, which is really awkward really, because she hosts a paranormal podcast where she's trying to unravel the mysteries of the occult and the unknown. She's invited to Arrington Estate, where 30 years ago a teenager was drowned in the lake, and legend says her spirit haunts the estate. So she has some connections that she meets along the way. She meets Quinn, who is the daughter of the new owner of the estate, and she makes friends as well with Holly, who is also there on a sort of like internship. And she quickly realizes that maybe I shouldn't be so skeptical about these things. A haunting is happening, right? So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a thoroughly entertaining story with some invisible disability and queer rep, focusing on Dare, who of course is, you know, very dimensional with her skepticism, yet sort of cashing in on what's popular at the moment with the paranormal and hosting a podcast, which are both very interesting things. But you learn a little bit about why she's doing it. It's not just for the fame and the fortune. Like, she's got this thirst to explore and discover, and she really wants it to be true. I had a great time listening to this one. Really enjoyed unraveling the mystery around this haunted house and the girls that wound up dead and missing in and around the lake. I feel like it captured the eerie and unsettling atmosphere of a ghost story perfectly, but it also blended a healthy dose of lightheartedness with the cute medical assistant dog Waffles and the gentle unfolding of feelings in Dare's and Quinn's relationships. I would have liked to have seen more of the friendship dynamic with the prior two and Holly, as I felt like that was almost like third wheeling and it was more told, not shown. I was a little hazy on the whole premise that got them there, this internship, but I think I just might have glazed over when they were discussing it. But nevertheless, this was a really enjoyable story. So those are all the books that I've read during May. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I shall catch you in another one soon. Bye.